Hello, and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Friday, 23 May. I'm your host, Daniel, and today we're going to be talking about the new era of German military, what the Chagos deal is between the UK and Mauritius, and Georgia has jailed an opposition leader. So firstly, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz announced a significant shift in Germany's military policy during a ceremony in Vilnius, marking the first permanent deployment of a German tank brigade to Lithuania. This move is part of NATO's broader strategy to bolster its eastern defences in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Merz emphasised the historical and strategic significance of this deployment, describing it as a new era for the German military and a symbol of solidarity with Lithuania. The Lithuanian president echoed these sentiments, calling the move a landmark event for NATO and European security. In addition to this deployment, Merz voiced strong support for increased military spending among NATO members. Amid growing pressure, especially from the United States, to boost defence budgets, NATO is considering new spending targets of up to 5%. Merz indicated that Germany finds the proposed targets reasonable and achievable by 2032. So what? As I highlighted in my post last night, I think this is pretty positive for European security, especially as the US is becoming more isolated in their security policies. Though I think it's highly unlikely that they're going to fully withdraw from Europe, they've made it pretty clear that they're going to tone down their presence to probably a significant degree. And this likely comes as they are reposturing towards countering China and possibility of conflict in Taiwan. So this means countries like Germany are critical for European security, as I really believe in the whole peace through strength way of achieving peace. And yet, Russia's on a wartime footing now. I don't see them changing that, even if the war in Ukraine stops. You know, they've built their wartime economy. They've got these factories that are producing so much military equipment. They're going to try and use it somewhere. So if NATO and Europe appears weak, there's a real possibility that they could try and test NATO's resolve and attack, especially one of the Baltic countries. But yeah, so I think this is great. Germany has a long history of military excellence, and I've worked with them overseas. They're great to work with, so it's very good to see. And next, the UK has signed a £3.4 billion deal to hand over sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, while retaining control of the UK-US military base in Diego Garcia, the largest of the islands. Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the 99-year agreement to lease back Diego Garcia will cost the UK £101 million a year and is necessary to protect the base from malign influence. However, UK opposition leaders and some island residents have criticised the deal. The islands are, if you don't know, located in the middle of the Indian Ocean, in absolutely the middle of nowhere, about 5,800 kilometres southeast of the UK. So what? From what I understand, this deal comes due to a UN ruling that said that the UK is illegally occupying the islands, and basically, in order to maintain some kind of legal standing, they have handed the islands back to Mauritius, which seems odd as it's pretty far from Mauritius, and then leasing it straight back off them. And that's the deal for the next 99 years. The deal appears to be backed by the US, and Trump has made some positive comments, especially in his last meeting with Starmer. But yeah, all in all, I can see why there's quite a bit of criticism. Like, the UK could have just kept it. In reality, no one can force them to give the island back. Locals of the island also don't seem too happy with the deal, as they're now just essentially given to Mauritius, which seems, again, a bit of colonial oddity. But yeah, it also creates some rather strange situations around how we deal with security in the region, as Diego Garcia is a large naval base and Air Force base for both the UK and US, and is seen as quite critical in countering Chinese influence in the Indian Ocean. All in all, it just seems like they've handed over the island and now paying shitloads of money to get it back. But I'm sure there's some kind of theory behind it. Well, I hope so. And lastly, a court in Georgia on Thursday put opposition leader Zurab Chapradiez in pre-trial detention. The move comes as the government looks to crack down on its critics following huge protests last year. Chapradiez is one of the leaders of the Coalition for Change, which came in second in the parliamentary elections in 2024. Opposition parties, including the Coalition for Change, are boycotting the current government amid accusations that the ruling Georgian Dream Party rigged the vote. He had refused to appear at an inquiry into alleged crimes committed between 2004 and 2012 during the term of the ex-president, who has since been jailed. Chapradiez, who featured prominently in the street protests last year, has also refused to pay bail and had been held in contempt by Parliament. He has denounced the parliamentary probe as being illegitimate and being unduly influenced by the current ruling party. Other opposition figures have also been accused of similar offences. They have also refused to appear at hearings and have rejected the parliamentary inquiry as illegitimate. The opposition and government critics accused Tbilisi of mimicking authoritarian tactics employed by Moscow and steering the country towards Russia and away from Europe and its aspirations for joining the EU. While the government denies these allegations, last year the current Prime Minister of the Georgian Dream Party postponed accession talks with Brussels until 2028. That decision revived street protests that had rocked the country in 2023 and 2024 after the government introduced the law on transparency of foreign influence, referred to by critics as the Russian law, which requires NGOs to register as foreign agents or organizations carrying out the interests of a foreign power if they receive money from overseas. So what? It's a pretty sad day for Georgia. This definitely seems like just further cracking down on opposition parties and any opposition to the current ruling party, which is exactly what they said would happen when they introduced this law on foreign power and then back down on the accession talks. While there's currently no evidence that the election was rigged, lots of people seem to believe it was, including lots of election observing NGOs and other groups that monitor these types of things. So yeah, pretty rough. Sadly, it seems unlikely that this guy will be released anytime soon and quite possibly could end up facing some time in jail. How Georgia turns the situation around, I don't know. Russia is in there in a pretty big way and clearly doing a pretty good job at influencing the country. So sadly, it might be a rocky few years. Thank you for listening to the Intel Brief. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you next time. See you.